Attention to brief. Welcome to the briefing room. My name is Matt Bowman, a retired naval aviator, and you are in the briefing room. The briefing room is a show by warriors for warriors, by leaders for leaders. So if you are competitive, if you want to live your best life, then you are in the right place. On this show, I interview some of the most exciting people I have in our ecosystem. Essentially, this includes military leaders, admirals, generals, members of the senior executive service. It includes thought leaders and entrepreneurs. So this is the hour that you can get inspired to take action. But first in the briefing room, what we do is we go around the world. And so what I'm going to do today is go around the world in 10 minutes. As a strategic briefer for combatant commanders, I know what it takes to be in the briefing room. So let's start with the United States. We have now entered the longest government shutdown in history. So what does that mean for us? It means thousands of federal employees are furloughed. Thousands of government contractors are at risk of making payments or having to fracture their payments in order to pay their bills. We also had in Virginia and New Jersey and California elections that will shape how our country operates. There's been a blue wave, arguably in Virginia, although not entirely unexpected. And the price of goods, the daily price of living goods, continues to rise for millions of Americans. The Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program for 42 million Americans is on hold, and we have $6 billion of stopgap money so that those Americans can get some relief. But Americans need real relief. These are all crises that our government is facing. Additionally, the National Guard Bureau has a direction by the president to establish a quick reaction force in all 50 states, territories, and the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. That means that these 500 men and women National Guardsmen will receive special training on crowd control, on police tactics, so that they can be deployed at a moment's notice. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? These are the kind of questions that we tackle in the briefing room. When we go down to South America, Venezuela is hot down at U.S. Southern Command. We have 13 vessels now in the Caribbean. That is the most U.S. military warships that have been in the Caribbean since the Gulf War. What does that mean? Venezuela is also preparing for attacks by the United States. They've requested assistance from Russia, Iran, and China, drones, surface-to-air missiles. All of these things make that northern part of South America into a tinderbox, waiting for something to jump off. When we go around the world to Ukraine and Russia continue to fight over the eastern part of Ukraine. Russia is circling cities and trying to declare victory, but the Ukrainians are still holding out. And so will that eastern part of Ukraine remain a part of Ukraine, or will it fall? The eastern part of Ukraine is the heart, the industrial heart of Ukraine. And so it has over 1,000-year history as being a part of the Ukrainian people. So we'll see what happens there. As we flow further south into the CENTCOM AOR, the CENTCOM has established a civil military coordination center where we Americans coordinate all the logistics and security that goes into and out of Gaza. We're working with other nations to make sure that that happens. And that effort is being led by Admiral Cooper down in CENTCOM, and we'll see how that goes. We're going to keep a close eye on that. Recently, the last hostages, the last 2 American hostages were released. Their bodies were released back into Israel. And so we now have 7 Israeli hostages that are still left to be located, and their remains returned to Israel. Traveling down to Africa, down to Western Africa, Islamic jihadists continue to wage war against Christians in Western Africa, in Nigeria, in Mali, Niger, in Burkina Faso. You know, our most charismatic captain is down there. And in an odd twist, you have Captain Ibrahim and the United States at the same time fighting Islamic jihadists. Some of this stuff you can't make up, but that is the world that we live in. In Asia, the biggest thing going on in Asia right now in the Indo-Pac Command is Typhoon Tino. Typhoon Tino has swept through the Philippines, killing 85 Philippine citizens. It has brought with it torrential rains, flooding, and high waves. It's now left the Philippines and is heading towards China, and we'll wait to see what happens with Typhoon Tino. It is one of the strongest typhoons on record. So, as we spin the globe, we've now gone around the world in under 10 minutes. Bea, Stars and Stripes, and Women of Color, Waves of Change, Becoming Everything You Are. These are all conferences that provide an opportunity for Americans to network, to get jobs, and to get opportunities, to become a subject matter expert in a variety of topics. We got a commercial that tells you all about it. Stay tuned.
It's the moment in your eyes when the future becomes clear.
40 years ago, a vision was born. To break barriers, to celebrate brilliance.
The hopes of what's in reach.
From pioneers to innovators to tomorrow's dreamers, Bea has changed the landscape of STEM forever. Great minds, great people, great futures. Join us for Bea 40. Don't just watch history, be part of it. Bea, becoming everything you are.
Become everything you are.
Welcome back to the briefing room. I'm your host, Matt Bowman. And as I told you, I bring with you the best thought leaders in the world. And today we have a special treat. The boss lady herself, Ms. Renata Spinks McNeil, a cybersecurity expert, a Marine veteran, a warrior's warrior. Welcome to the show, Renata.
Hey. Thanks so much for having me, Matt. Thanks so much. It is an exciting time to be on the show. But everything you just rolled off around the world, it kind of makes you a little more solemn to just understand that while we're going to talk about boss lady and my greatness, there's still so much work to be done. So I really appreciate having a chance to share with everyone today.
Well, excellent. We're glad to have you, Renata. And, we have a tradition on this show, on the briefing room, where our guests feature their T-shirt that says a lot about them. So what you got for us, boss lady?
Oh, yes. So that's why you asked me to wear my T-shirt. Okay, now it makes sense. Okay, so right here, I am a Jordan girl because I am the GOAT, right? I am the greatest of all time. That's just what I am. But today I wanted to give a tribute to what you talked about, the elections and how important it is to voice our votes. And so I had this designed during the election last year, and it has some Converse. I have my pearls here because I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And so I have my pearls here. I have the flag. I have the White House. And then I have Cyber Boss Lady down here. So just a little bit about, I'm going to stand up so you guys can see, right? So Cyber Boss Lady right there. And of course, my hands is clutching my pearls because sometimes things happen in life. My grandma say, sometimes you just got to clutch your pearls and just pray. So that's what my shirt is about. I have my Bea pen here, that tradition of always having the Bea pen and why that's so important. So that's my T-shirt. It says a lot about me when I have my emblem here for Cyber Boss Lady. CyberSec International is my company. So I kind of infringed a little bit here by not putting the Converse sign, but we didn't have permission to use that sign. So, so that's my T-shirt. It is one of many. I have a lot of designs out there. It just really depends on the day. So this one was fitting for today.
And I love it. I love it that you always bring your whole self, no matter where you are. And what you said about clutching the pearls. I think 2 weeks ago, we had one of the naval aviators, and he said, how do you stand firm on shaky legs? And so sometimes you have to clutch your pearls. Sometimes you have to stand firm on shaky Thanks. So let's jump right into it. I mean, what makes, I mean, you're the GOAT, you know, we know you're the GOAT. And when it comes to cybersecurity, there's no one like you. So tell us about your family. Let's kind of rewind it and go all the way back to the beginning.
Oh
So who are
man.
your people and where are you from?
My people are those who do the will of the Lord. Let me tell you, I'm from a small town, Jonesboro, Louisiana. I was brought up in Bienville Parish. Yep, that's me. I played basketball. I ran track. My mother is a seamstress, so I love to show the picture of the first suit that she made for me. I wanted to do this boy, like I was a tomboy. And so I wanted to take my pictures in a tie and a dress outfit, but not have pants on the bottom. I wanted to be dressy. And so she said, well, you can't wear pants if you want to do that. So we're going to do a dress. So she made me that outfit, and I took a picture in it, and it's so cute. Look at her. She's so innocent. Oh my gosh.
Adorable. Absolutely.
And then that's my basketball picture. That is my senior year. I was, I think, all state, all district, all everything that year. So that picture is really important to me. But most importantly, it just kind of shows the humble beginnings. Jonesboro is a small town in northern Louisiana. I don't remember the population, but we're really a tight-knit group. Everyone knows each other. I won't say everyone is kin to each other, but everyone is akin to each other, meaning we know each other, we know each other's families. And to be honest with you, Matt, it didn't matter what race you were. You know, my basketball team I was really good friends with this young lady named Sunny Thomas. We are still friends today. And she comes from a totally different background than I did. And I love basketball and track because it taught me so much about resilience. It taught me so much about working on a team. But I think the biggest thing that I learned from being from a small town, a very God-fearing family, as well as being able to participate in sports and learning different things in such a rural community, was the ability to pivot. So many times, whether you're on the basketball court, you sometimes have to change, right? You have to adjust to what the defense is doing. Sometimes you have to change your offense. Even if you're me, the greatest of all times, I had to adjust to some things, right? And little did I know that type of coaching that I was receiving at that time on the basketball court would come into play in life and different life circumstances, professionally and personally. So that's what Jonesboro is to me. I always love to talk about where I came from because I think it definitely creates and shapes who you are today. I've seen people kind of, I wish I didn't have this in my childhood. I don't have any of those things. I don't have any regrets. I do, like everyone else. I always have things that, man, I probably should have done that differently, right? I mean, you know it. Hindsight is 2020. Everyone has, oh, I probably should have done that differently. But I am not gonna say, you know what? If I would have done that differently, then this. And it's like, yeah, if I would have had a crystal ball and I had the luxury of being perfect, I probably would be a narcissistic, obnoxious, that no one wants to be around. And I definitely would not have any lessons learned. So if I don't have those lessons learned, then I wouldn't be able to be here today and talk about all those things that everyone else, if you're authentic and you're true to yourself, everyone else is probably nodding their heads up and down because they can relate. And the second when you stop being relatable, I think you lose the impact that you're having on each other. And you can't help if you're not relatable. So
Well, you talk about relatability. And one of the things that the briefing room showcases is this wide spectrum of experiences. So, when I first met you and you told me about Louisiana culture, I didn't know it. I got to be honest with you. I didn't know the difference between a Cajun and a Creole and Zydeco and
yes,
Steppin.
oh man.
Talk to us a little bit about the culture of where you come from, of who your people are.
Yeah, I think the first thing that gets most people attention is the celebration of life. People call those funerals, but I like to say everything is a reason to party in Louisiana. If you just want to play games on a Saturday night with your friends, it's a party. If you want to invite the family over because grandma cooked greens and bread, and it's a party. And I think that comes from the music background of Louisiana, the jazz and things like that. I don't really know where it comes from, where there's such a bubbly and live culture in Louisiana. There's also many stories that I grew up. I do come from a mulatto family. I do have Native American, Caucasian, and Black or African American in my family. So there's a lot of diversity. And with that comes many different perspectives. So you could imagine what family reunions and homecomings look like. But that culture, I tell you, it shapes you. It keeps you grounded, because if you remember years ago, I think what hit the airway that jolted me the most was probably Gina 6. Like, I can just remember that time.
Yeah.
So while there's bubbly attitudes and there's diversity, there is still lots of instances where you experience discrimination and racism. So again, I go back to, I'm going to be authentic here. It's not all the partying that you see for Mardi Gras and Bayou Classic and things like that. There are some cultural challenges throughout the state, but I also think that that is what readied me for the future that I didn't even know that I had, and it was not one that I planned. But being able to see those differences and experience, quite honestly, whether you want to call it racism, discrimination, wherever you want to call it, experiencing not good things versus all good things. I think if you don't have both sides of those coins, you're probably not operating in reality, and it changes you if you don't have those experiences. And I'm not making excuses for those experiences, but that's the reality of Louisiana. Zydeco is one you talked about. You hear people with boots on the ground now. Let me be clear, that did not originate in Louisiana. I don't know why people think it did, but it did not. But it is a southern thing that you see, boots and Daisy Dukes, and that. I mean, we do that, even though other cultures have adopted those personas. If you go back into history, I mean, music has been I think music has been the lifesaver all the way back to 400 years ago, when songs were used to communicate yourself to freedom. So that's that. I'm gonna leave it right there.
But I'm glad that you went there. When you look at the Middle Passage, and kind of as we look back, as to where we came from and how we got here, whether it's Charleston, South Carolina, in the Low Country, in the 5 counties where we have Gullah Geechee tradition in South Carolina, boots on the ground, whether it's Jacksonville and the Seminole Nation down here in Florida, or whether it's New Orleans and all the flowing of culture from New Orleans and then up the Mississippi River to Detroit and Southside Chicago. Such a rich history, right? But resilience.
Yes.
At the end of the day, all stories of resilience and overcoming adversity. And I know you have overcome, listen, as one of the top Americans in cybersecurity. And notice, I didn't say top women, I didn't say top Black women, one of the top Americans in the world in cybersecurity. I know it hasn't been easy, and you have overcome challenges. So we're going to take a commercial break real quick, and then I want to talk about you as a teen and a collegiate. So back to the production for another commercial.
In today's rapidly changing workforce landscape, finding the right talent isn't just about filling positions. It's about building the future. But with new policies shaping how organizations approach recruitment, companies and institutions need a smarter way to connect with top STEM talent, fairly, effectively, and compliantly. That's where CCG Job Match comes in. For more than 30 years, Career Communications Group has been bridging the gap between education and industry. Job Match is our workforce development program that links employers with thousands of qualified, motivated candidates, students and professionals ready to make an impact. With Job Match, companies gain access to a broad pool of skilled applicants, engineers, technologists, innovators, while ensuring every hiring decision is based on merit. No quotas, no preferences, just opportunity and talent matched with precision. Education partners benefit too, helping their graduates transition seamlessly into the workforce while showcasing the strength of their academic programs to leading employers nationwide. In a world where policies may change, one thing remains constant: the need for great talent. CCG Job Match is where industries, institutions, and innovation meet. Let's build the future together. Contact us at CCG Job Match to start your partnership today.
All right, welcome back to the briefing room where your life can change during your lunch hour. I'm here with Miss Renata Spinks McNeil, the boss lady, the cybersecurity expert in the world, and we're about to jump right in to how do you go from the middle of northern Louisiana into the top C-suites of Silicon Valley in Washington, D.C. So let's get right to it. Tell us, okay, after high school, what happens?
God did. Let me tell you, I'm gonna be a lot transparent today. It's things that people know about me, but I don't think they've ever heard me put into a congruent story because it's very important. I was pregnant out of high school. I still had basketball scholarships. I had Tennessee Volunteers, Louisiana Tech, you name it. I was a top recruit. And I chose to go to Louisiana Tech because I was pregnant. I actually ran track while I was pregnant, championships and all. Look in the newspaper, it's there. But I was pregnant. If you look at my son's age, you can figure out that she had to have been pregnant her last senior year, right out of high school. And that's important because it made me make some different decisions, right? And so I fast forward as I go through college basketball. Then I joined the military because I was a parent. I need to take care of my son. And that was coming from a military background. I said, you know what, I'm going to join the military. And it ended up being a great decision for stability, but also just from the education and the camaraderie that I developed. Joined the United States Army as an enlistee. Went through basic training in San Antonio, Texas, part of the medical brigade, medical command down there. And I just kept blossoming from there. But it all started because that one thing that could have been detrimental, I could have taken a different reaction with pregnancy. I actually, again, transparency, everyone was telling me have an abortion. Mm-hmm. And that sticks with me, not because it was my family. It was other people who, you have a chance to go to the American Basketball League. You can go, at that time, it wasn't the WNBA, it was ABL. You went overseas. And that was a goal of mine, right? And so I thought about it and it's like, man, how many times we make some very selfish decisions. And so I'm happy that I was not selfish, but I always reflect onto those things because we all face decisions that we have to make. And sometimes those decisions, at that moment, you don't even know how it can affect you for the rest of your life. But being an early teen mom, I did get married, was married a few years, had twin girls, and then got divorced while I was in the military. So that's a whole nother story of what deployment can do to a family. But it shaped me.
And you said you did a deployment?
I was deployed to Iraq, Operation Iraqi Freedom, then Enduring Freedom, because the campaigns changed while we were there. And there I supported a general officer. The things that are so crazy in my life is at the age of 18, I had a general officer. I'm shaking the boots, a captain at first by our unit. And then I started serving a full-bird colonel who was at the command level. And then once we got deployed, we were in a brigade. And so we had general officers that you're deployed. No rank is on the collar. You better recognize the face, but it's chaos. I screamed at the general officer, like, who does that? Like, who does that? Screaming at the general officer. It was Battle of Fallujah. I'll never forget it. And I was patient administration and comms had went out. Full communications, we were accustomed to China 9 coming in hot. And if we heard that, everybody's to the command operations center, everyone's to the helo that's coming in, and everyone is trying to make sure that if we need an operator, if we need maxillofacial surgery, it just really depended on what is hot. What are you describing? So that we had the right doctors and nurses in the proper surgical rooms. And the comms went out. And I did not know this was a general officer trying to help me. Okay, he was trying to help me do my job. And I'm telling him what he needs to do for his job. Like, you need to fix the comms. I don't know who's doing what back there, but it's mass chaos. We can't save people's lives if you can't communicate. So I'm doing all these things. I was 20 years old. I'm screaming. Later on, I find out once I got an Army Commendation Medal for poise. That's not poise. How do you get an award for poise? Just general. But that was General Waitman. I'll never forget him because he's the one who said you should go to the communications platoon and cross train. You're here, you're deployed. You know, when there's downtime, go figure out what it is that happens in communications. That way you can give more direction when there's chaos going because you have a level head in chaos. And so I'm like, now by this time, he's told me he's the general.
Okay.
I don't even know what to say now. But that changed my life because I did start actually cross training with the communications platoon. I'll never forget Specialist Belt. He showed me everything about how to create internet connectivity in the middle of a sandbox where you have no way to just walk out. There's no poles. There's no Verizon in your ground that you're just going to hook up to. That's not what's happening. You're actually creating the ability to communicate radio frequencies. I learned all about those things. And it pushed me to learn about technology, went on to college. So I was opposite. I didn't stay in college. I went to the military, came out of the military, and then went back to school, played basketball at St. Augustine's, HBCU in Raleigh, North Carolina, Falcons, let's throw those waves up. Let's go those feathers up. I played basketball there, was a star athlete there, also academic. So I was on an academic and athletic scholarship. And so it was great. And I went right into criminal justice. And that's where I learned about forensics. And I went into Homeland Security. And it was one thing after another. And to save the time, I will tell you, it was always curiosity. Well, how do you know the information I'm giving you is correct? And how do you know that I really sent that information? And I was always asking that question. And for what we know today as intelligence-based cybersecurity, back then it was information assurance, it was information system security. No matter what it's called, it was about ensuring large amounts of data was accessed by the right people at the right time. And you could always know that it really is validated. So no matter what you call it, the CIA triad is always going to be is confidentiality, integrity, availability. And I now add a 2, like A squared for me is authentication, because we have to think about who's getting this information, and is it an information sharing opportunity? If it's our allies, is it information exchange? If we're talking about a security operations center, but though, to answer your question, that was my evolution. And into the C-suites was a bet. It was a bet.
Well, before we go into the C-suite, it's amazing how each of the elements played in to you becoming who you are.
Yes.
Go to St. Augustine, you major in criminal justice, which then dovetails into, a whole part of your career that a lot of people probably don't know, which is that whole work in finding and assisting victims and
right.
such. Can you talk a little bit about how, all the pieces of the puzzle fit together to build who you are?
Yeah, so I majored in, my primary major was information systems security. I wanted to build systems. And then I minored in criminal justice. I minored in criminal justice because I thought I wanted to be a technology and corporate attorney. That's what I thought I wanted to be. I told everybody I was going to be a lawyer. But once I started studying criminal justice, I was introduced to forensics. And I got a chance, Mr. Dukes, that was his name, Professor Dukes. He introduced me to investigations. And he said, instead of being a lawyer, why don't you have such an inquisitive mind? Why don't you learn about forensics? And so I thought forensics was more of scientific and death and things like that. And when they introduced me to computer forensics, I loved it. Extracting information. I think the most exciting thing for me was the first time I extracted information from a technology that people had just deleted everything, like it was a white computer. And when I was able to pull information back, that's the competitive side in me. It's like, oh, you thought it was gone. Oh, it's not gone. And so you take that to a criminal who, that's the first thing they do. They start deleting evidence. And so being able to extract that data and learn all about the tools and techniques that criminals use led me into my first internship of studying human trafficking and child exploitation. I had never been introduced to it, and I didn't even know it was a thing until that studying. And although I went into Homeland Security with my first job as a program analyst, again, a pivot, but also a champion in the room. Someone said my name to the Secretary of, at that time, Department of Homeland Security, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And I got a chance to go and study forensics and work with the Homeland Security investigations. And at that time, they had one, two, three. We had 4 operations going on, and all of them were different operations that was tracking pedophiles, and those are older people who are preying on children, and they communicate with them online, and they get them to either leave the home or lure them into areas where they could kidnap them, or one of the operations we studied was when people go to the malls and they target busy times of the year when parents are doing their best to keep up with their children, but their kids are excited. It's Christmas. They want to go see Santa. All those things are happening. And that is when I learned how to use closed circuit TV to actually study when people are targeting children in large areas like malls or fairs and things like that. And so that was my real first introduction to cybersecurity, but it was on the investigative side. And the one thing about investigations is there's always another question. You can always keep asking the question. It can be intimidating because sometimes you're looking for a needle in a haystack. But what I learned in investigations that helps me even today is when you're working in technology, you're not really looking for the answer. You're looking for the reason, right?
Okay.
If you look for the answer, you stop because you think that's all. And most times in cybersecurity, it's like, well, why did they steal your credentials? Did they steal your credentials? Yes. If you stop, you can't be the greatest of all times. No one's going to want to work with you. Okay. But if you say, well, why did they steal Matt's credentials? Is it because Matt has access to Career Communications Group? Maybe so. Well, Matt has access to not only Career Communications Group, but he also has a podcast and people tune in. I wonder whose information I can steal by people who are tuning in because they don't run security protocols on their technology. That's just one example of if you ask why versus what. And that's what I learned in criminal investigations. And that perspective, I think, has helped me. But more importantly, you heard me say champions in a room. You can be the greatest of all times. I mean, I say that and we joke, but I really do think that I am one of the greatest leaders of all times. In cyber, I'm very competitive and I can spar with the best of them. So if anyone who's tuning in wants to challenge that, I'm all for it. But anyway, back to the subject, right?
Right.
I think that champions in the room is important. And these are rooms I'm not in. These are rooms that sometimes I haven't even stepped foot in them. And I think that's important. So no matter how much experience I have, there's a lot of people I know who also have some of the same experiences, if not more. If we don't cultivate champions in the room, if we don't have that, if we don't do things like work with people like you, Matt, who became an instant mentor for me when I first met you in Detroit, and being bold enough to say, I think you kind of got that mixed up, little girl. And I'm like, who's this dude? You remember I was like, who do you think you are? Telling me that I'm the boss lady, like, But having someone in your life to give you those different perspectives and then still say your name in other rooms that you have not even graced, I think that's made the difference to where that got me to the C-suite. The forensics was great, but that's all expertise. And you definitely have to develop expertise. You have to develop your craft. And just like you did earlier when you went around the world, current information and current expertise, currency is the new gold. If you are not current up on the skills and information, I think there's an irrelevance that's going to come. You're irrelevant to me because the bad guy continues to change the way they attack us. They continue to change their how and their reasons. and they continue to change their targets, right? So I think the forensics helped me create that critical thinking and that mindset that put me in line for the C-suite. Yeah.
Well, champions in the room. We're going to go to a break with that thought, and then we're going to go to resilience in the next segment. So we got a fantastic commercial for you all to see. I met Miss Renata Spinks McNeil at a conference, at a Waves of Change, at a BEA conference. And so I encourage you all to come to these professional events to build your ecosystem so that you will have champions in the room. Over to commercial.
Hi, STEM professionals. I'm Eric Price, Vice President of Recruitment and Training here for Career Communications Group. Our conferences have something for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. Let's say, for example, you are a new college student and need some soft skills to learn. Guess what? We can help you there. If you're an existing professional who's looking to rise up the corporate ladder, we got you covered. Our remarkable thought leaders will introduce you to out-of-the-box thinking, develop your existing professional skills, and expand your leadership skills. My name is Eric Price, and I'm Vice President of Recruitment and Training here at Career Communications Group, and you can contact me either by calling our headquarters office at 410-244-7101 or via email at eprice@ccgmag.com. And I look forward to hearing from you soon.
All right, welcome back to the briefing room. And we left with this concept of champions in the room. But Miss Renata Spinks McNeil, you are the greatest of all time. I love this picture here because the United States Marine Corps is over 250 years old. And in those 250 years, there have only been two African Americans, actually three African Americans that have been members of the Senior Executive Service. You were the one who rose the fastest. You were the one who shined the brightest. So talk to us about how do you, as an Army veteran, as a federal civilian, thrive in a culture that's as demanding as the United States Marine Corps?
I will tell you something Kendall Holbrook said. She's one of my mentors, but close friends. She told me in 2015, I was at the IRS at that time. She told me, stop taking things so personally. She told me that. And I was not happy about some of the things I was experiencing in the workplace. And I didn't have the tools at that time to understand how to maneuver and how to navigate through some of those challenges. And she said, the reason you can't maneuver and the reason you can't figure out the next best thing for you to do is because you're so consumed with the emotion of it's wrong, it's not right, because that's what I would always say to her. And she told me that, and it changed my perspective because I was taking a lot of it personally. And so just teasing on that piece of it, in the culture of the United States Marine Corps, they are measured twice, 50 times, however many times you want to measure, but you can't get stagnated by fear. We got to move forward, but you get to cut once. And that level of precision is worse than the perceived culture for me. I expected everything that people warned me of. I cannot tell you. I talk about this in my book, Act Like a Lady, Think Like the Boss Lady, that's coming out pretty soon. You guys need to go to my website and order it. But I know you're going to talk about that, Matt, but this is the most opportune time. But I talk about how most people who responded to me, it was congratulations, but, and they were giving me all these warnings. And so that's where my fear came, to just what I was being warned of. It was the cultural bias, the reputation of female aggression from the male-dominated space within the Marine Corps. And then they elevated up to the Navy and that culture. And you need to expect this. And they're not going to let you do this. They aren't going to do that. Watch your six, because they will do you like that. And so I'm not a scary person, but they had me, we talked about this earlier, shaking in my boots. I was really scared. And I was like, maybe I made the wrong decision, because when I applied to the job, it was based on the job description and bringing everything that I had learned from my military service, from the federal service, into the Department of Defense, because that announcement, it aligned with so much of what I knew I could do. I never once considered, well, what about the culture or not? I just didn't think about that. So I really don't know how I made it through, besides 3 reasons. One, my social network of women is unmatched. It is untouchable. I won't even start to name names, because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to leave somebody out. Okay. But if you scroll my social media, you scroll LinkedIn, I have pictures with my board of directors, and all of them are paid in sweat and tears. That's it. Every last one of them. Sweat, tears, and transparency. That's all they pay into this boss lady CEO network that we have. Whether that's general officers, whether that is the enlisted, whether that's my beauticianer. Let me tell you, it is women in my life who I can call on to this day, and they will have confidence, meaning they're not going to go spreading all over the world that, oh, she's having a bad day. Let me tell you what she said happened in the Marine Corps. The level of confidence, that keeping that closeness, but still being able to tell me the truth, sometimes about myself, Matt. I mean, sometimes they are telling me you're wrong. Okay. And you're taking that the wrong way. You need to give people some grace. They're fighting against certain things as well. So I had that support group, but that support group didn't create itself. I had to put it up, and I had to allow myself to open up to people, not because, okay, one day I'm going to need them. It wasn't like that. It was just, if I don't climb the ranks and know that I'm not doing it by myself, then maybe I'll get there, but I definitely won't be able to stay. It will not be sustainable, because you do not fight through barriers. You do not, I mean, we learned that in the military. They may teach you hand-to-hand combat, and it's just you with those sticks and you're fighting, but there's a whole group of people watching and cheering you on. So you're not doing anything by yourself. You got the drill sergeant saying, duck, turn. You got all, so you're still not by yourself, even though you're holding those sticks and you feel like you're by yourself, but you're really not. And I take that through all of my experiences, to include the Marine Corps. And like I said, the perceived culture, because it just wasn't my experience. Everything that people was warning me about. I mean, from the men are going to sexually harass you because you don't have a husband. Like, I'm like, what? Is that a real thing? Like, if they're going to be sexually harassing, they're going to sexually harass you, whether you have a husband or not. Like, why does that matter? Well, you're single, so they're not going to let you do this. Or you came from, oh, this was a good one. You came from U.S. Treasury and the Army. You're not a real Marine, so they're not going to listen to you. And then it was, well, you're a girl. Forget black girl. It was, you are a girl. Marines don't listen to women. Mm-hmm. And that just was not my experience. I try not to even talk about it when people ask me, well, how did you deal with the culture? I didn't have that experience. So I didn't deal with the culture. I dealt with what you perceive to be the culture, but that's not what I dealt with. I'm not saying that that's not, maybe people have that position that they didn't listen to me because I was a girl. Maybe so. But when they didn't listen to me, they was going up, down one side of me with facts. Okay. It was, here's what you're not thinking about.
Why your veins were not. I mean,
yes, seriously. It was, you didn't think about this. You need to consider these things. Here's what's happening to our Marines in the MEF. Here's what's happening to our Marines when they go aboard these Navy ships. It was not, well, Ms. Spinks, because you're a girl, you don't get it. It just wasn't that. The culture for me, I will tell you, Matt, I think it grew me up as a woman. I went through things that no one warned me about. They didn't warn me that, oh, you don't have to worry about the guys, you got to worry about the girls. You gotta worry about those women who aren't comrades like you're used to. Like they're not builders like your CEO, boss lady, group me chat that you have where they can tell truth to each other and iron sharpen iron. Nobody warned me about that, but that was the paralyzing moment of my career when I realized that all of the books that I read about unconscious bias and how to deal with men in the workplace did not prepare me for the culture I experienced while serving as a senior executive. And it wasn't just, some people say, oh, it's probably just white women because they're privileged. Miss me with all of that. No, it is just we as women don't do a great enough job, from my experience, supporting each other. We just didn't. That was my experience. And how I survived that was doing what I'm doing now. Oh, I'm going to call you on it. I'm going to tell you that we have enough to fight against when society has created this continuous conversation about the bias that women experience from men. But we also don't do a good job saying, you know what, the cattiness that these male leaders have to deal with, that they are sometimes forced to turn a head to. I think that is what made me the creme de la creme for the Marine Corps, because I would call these ladies out on their crap and say, you're making the general, you're putting them in a bad position, because if he tries to correct this bad behavior that I took ownership, that we are experiencing and exhibiting, then we're going to say, he's being aggressive towards me, or he's not supporting me. So it's a two-edged sword. I expected to have to deal with all of this male stuff, these men, and them going to make me cry in the bathroom and all this. And my tears came at the hands of other women. So
yeah, something, Renata, your tears came from unexpected places.
Yeah, it did. My tears, my shaking in the boots. I was happy when the Marine Corps challenged me, when it was get your expertise, learn about why election security is so important, Ms. Spinks. It's not just about endpoints. It's not just about people being able to log in. Why is personification so important? Why is misinformation so important? And when you try to gather around the water cooler and you think you're all that, you're the favor, and it's like, when I showed up, girl, I told you I was the greatest of all time. I told you, you just didn't believe me. Well, I had to tone that down, right? Because everybody couldn't take that personality.
They could take it,
right? And so I do have to adjust, and I get all that. But in those moments where I would just ask people, and we have to be careful when we say, oh, I would have did this or I would have did that. No, you wouldn't have. You would have did exactly what I did. You would have tried to go and talk to each other. And you would have said, why don't you like me? Did I do something to you? What can I do better? And when you have people that are sitting across the same aisle see you as competition instead of a collaborator, that's hard to fight through when you're trying to revolutionize the culture that is accustomed to boots on the ground, bullets in hand, fighting a fight that is now all digital most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Renata, we're gonna, with that, going from bullets to digital, and making that adjustment, we're gonna transition towards the end of the show. And you have left the Marine Corps as a senior executive. You're now out here in industry doing big things. But there's a lot of people now who are at home who are watching this podcast. Can you give them your 60-second best advice? I mean, you're sitting here at the top of the world, but it's because you pivoted and you made that change. What advice would you give to our audience members, whether they're college students or employees or recently been let go from their job? 60 seconds. What would you tell them?
I think Shakira McCants and Kendall and I, we did this presentation that talked about liftoff, promoting yourself. We did it at the Grace Hopper conference last year. And I think it still reigns true today. If you don't sit down and there's no more vision board, we're in execution. The vision, you should have wrote the vision already. If you didn't, go write your vision, make it plain, do all those things. But you need an execution plan. You need to be able to sit down and figure out what are the metrics that you use that indicates time to pivot, and then come up with your how. if you don't have some deliberate thought process, everything that hits you by surprise will shake you to your core and it will stagnate you. But I had a plan, and I started planning a long time ago for when my exit is. They do this all the time in businesses and acquisition. They ask you all the time, well, what's your exit strategy? So I had, I'll tell you who it was. We were at the Bayer conference, and she was the NSA's HR lead at that time. And I won't say her name because she's probably watching, but she was like, you don't have a plan. What's your short-term goals? What's your long-term goals? And it's not a plan until you write it down. So that's the advice that I would give everyone, to write it down. And don't be afraid that what you write down may not come to true, but at least you have a barometer. At least you have somewhere to start. And then you go back and reread and say, well, you know what? I didn't want to do that, or I didn't do that, but I did these things. And I'm not preaching to the choir. I have a notebook right now. It's called In My Zone. It's raggedy, but I've been writing in it since 2000. I've had it since 2000. And I think that's important. Since you asked me, I'm going to take an opportunity to answer it about me, because everyone may not agree to this. And I'm not trying to make anyone agree. But if you do not have a strong prayer life, if you do not have a strong way to go into yourself and believe in everything that's within you, everything that happens that surprises you will shake you to your core and you will not come out of it. In today's situation, you cannot control when the government's going to open back up. You cannot control what's going to happen during elections. And you also can't control if everyone who voted, and now we have a little bit of hope, I think is what Mr. Barack Obama said, there's a little bit of hope, but there's still work to do. Even if none of those things come to fruition, every time you grace the world with your presence every day, it's something you can't control. So God chose to wake you up, or your alarm clock, or whatever you believe is happening. And you got to make good on it. So you have to deal with what's coming at you, the piece you can't control. And so the only way that I myself have been able to adjust to those things I can't control is by controlling my reaction and my level of readiness, and always accepting that I do not pursue perfection. It is the enemy of good enough. That's another Marine Corps saying. It really is. But I do strive for excellence. I try to be a good person. I try to treat people the way I want to be treated. And I have a strong meditative prayer life to where I get very still. And as long as I am sure about the direction I am going, I'm okay. I can be sure about the direction, even if I am not sure about the path. And that's totally different. Okay.
Well, Renata, when you say those words, I am reminded of Terrance Head. And
yes.
So we're now going to talk about Mr. Terrance Head. Mr. Terrance Head was a very good friend of ours, all of ours. He was part of the Bayer family. He was an executive. He's a son. He's a brother. He's an alpha, just a great man. He passed away recently. He transitioned, and his celebration of life is going on right now. If you had the opportunity to meet him, he was a man who exhibited all those qualities that Renata spoke about: excellence, faith. He was IBM's quantum safe leader, running a $7.1 billion business, a graduate of South Carolina State University. So he was a bulldog. And so I want to bring on Dr. Kendall Harris and keep you on as well, Ms. Renata Spinks McNeil, and give you each a minute to talk about Terrance, his life and his work and his legacy. So ladies first, Ms. Renata.
Yeah, so Terrance is and will always be the epitome of a champion for me. I got a chance to share a panel with him. It was called Act Like a CEO, Think Like a Leader, when Becoming Everything You Are was in Philadelphia. And that was back in 2016, and we were friends ever since. I got promoted in 2018, and Terrance could not make it, but Terrance sent me flowers. And I still have the card. It is in my book. And this is before Terrance passed away, and I didn't know he was going to pass away, but on that card, he said, the ethos you are walking into, I'll never forget it. He said, the ethos that you are walking into has nothing on you, and anyone who makes you think otherwise, I will hurt them. So Terrance would always have this little thing about, let me tell me if somebody messing with you, because I'm an alpha man, I'll hurt them. And so I always would laugh at him and say, Terrance, everybody's treating me good. And he would say, well, what's next for you? Because he was always working on a next, right? Whether that was the Outliers, and then he told me why he named his company that. He always was a thought leader, and you could not stand still in your life if Terrance was in your life. You could not be still. You couldn't say, well, I think I'm good now. And he's looking at you like something's wrong with you. So I will stop there every time I called him. He called and he would turn my phone calls. He was a listening ear, and he was one of my truth tellers. He would tell me if my perspective was a little flawed, but then he'd build me right back up. He said, I can see what you're saying, but you think about it this way. So he is a friend that is going to be sorely missed for me. He is a confidant and a brother that I came to truly love and admire, not for just his forward thinking, but the tenacity and resilience that he taught me to show.
Wow. Thank you, Renata. All right, Dr. Kendall Harris, Dean Harris, your reflections.
Good afternoon for you guys. Good morning for me. I'm out here on the West Coast, and the time difference is there. And Renata, good to see you, my friend, as always. It's so funny. My story about Terrance was going to be at the same Bay Conference of 2016, Philadelphia, because I remember at the time I was Dean of Engineering. And, me and Terrance have interacted with each other for several years, and he just cornered me. And he said, Kendall, we got to do more. We got to get more of these kids into these corporations, into these programs. What are you going to do? And he put that charge on me at that time. And he said, what are you going to do? And that was Terrance. Terrance was one that would do it himself, but he also knew that to meet the cause that we're trying to accomplish, that we all have to push in. I started to label him after that point. His new label was my self-contained nuclear reactor. It was just constant energy, but it was well maintained. If you knew of Terrance, you would see this poised gentleman, always walking around, professionally built, but also always the energy was building within him, and that energy constantly was ready to be able to spread to others around him. So I just remember the brother constantly saying, Kendall, what are you going to do? I said, I'm trying to do as much as I can. He said, you got to do more. He would not let you just rest on your laurels. He always was there to push you more. My brother would be missed. To his family, I send our condolences. To his dad, he talked about you all the time. I send our condolences to his family, to those who surrounded him. He will be one that will be missed from our life.
A charge to keep have I. Those are words that truly reflect Terrance. And so to my brother Terrance, to my fellow South Carolinian, fair winds and following seas, my friend. We'll see you on the other side. Thank you all for tuning in to the briefing room. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
Calling all future STEM pioneers, leaders, and career champions. Join us on every second Saturday of the month for the BEA Career Day. BEA STEM Career Day is all about creating opportunities for students to venture into the world of STEM through the eyes of professionals. You'll meet mentors and presenters that will give you a sneak peek into the many options available to you in the field of STEM. Hosted by teen ambassadors, you'll find yourself among inspiring peers just like yourself that are aiming high for their future. To take part in the BEA STEM Career Day on Zoom, visit fullstemahead.us and register for the next session. Again, that's fullstemahead.us. BEA, becoming everything you are.
A world